Hey everyone, welcome back. We're gonna be diving into something today that's been kind of hard to ignore lately, and that's layoffs. It seems like it's been everywhere, especially in tech, but we're also seeing it in government too. So we're gonna try to take a deep dive into all this, and our guide for this one is an article by Professor Joseph X. N. He's a real expert in AI and all the ways that it's impacting different industries, and you know. This might hit particularly close to home if you've been impacted by these recent layoffs or if you know someone who has. Professor Eng's article really gets into how companies are handling these situations and the kind of surprising ways that AI is playing a role in all this.
Yeah, it is definitely more than just, companies adjusting to, economic whatever or restructuring. Professor Ng is really pointing out a pattern here, particularly among some of the bigger companies like Meta, where it goes beyond just the we had to let some people go.
Yeah,
And
right. It's like there's this specific language they're using labeling laid off employees as like low performers, which is just so strange considering many of these people had like glowing performance reviews before this whole thing happened.
yeah, and it makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes there. Professor Ng suggests that it's kind of a calculated move, a way to shift blame away from leadership and project like an image of strength to investors.
So instead of saying, maybe we overhired or we made some mistakes, they're basically putting it all on the employees.
Exactly. And it creates this narrative that the layoffs were purely performance-based, you know,
Okay.
which can make it even harder for laid off employees to like legally challenge the decision.
Right, because who wants to hire someone who's been labeled a low performer, right?
It's a tough situation. It's like a double whammy. They lose their job and then they're stuck with this label that could hurt their chances of finding a new one.
And that's where AI comes into the picture. Professor Eng highlights how these AI systems that are supposed to, streamline hiring can actually end up making this bias even worse.
Yeah, and it's not always intentional.
Yeah.
A company might not be purposely trying to blacklist laid off workers, but the AI they're using might be doing it for them, just based on the way it's been programmed.
So even if the company isn't saying don't hire anyone who was laid off, the AI might be learning that on its own just from the data it's given.
All right, think about it. These systems are all about data. And if that data includes labels like low performer attached to people who are just part of a layoff, the AI might start to connect those two things, even if there's no real connection in reality.
It's picking up on the company's spin and then applying it to everyone.
And it's not just happening in tech either. Professor Eng points to a House Oversight Committee hearing where they used really similar language. They were labeling federal employees as non-essential or underperforming to justify budget cuts.
It's like looking in a mirror, right? It's the same thing happening in the corporate world. This whole war on waste idea kind of masks the deeper issues that are really going on.
And just like in the private sector, it leaves those federal employees with a stigma that's really hard to shake. They're seen as inefficient or expendable, which makes it so much harder to find new jobs, whether it's within the government or outside.
It's a lot to think about and makes you wonder what the long-term consequences of all this will be.
Professor Nang isn't the only one who's concerned about this either. He brings in some perspectives from other experts in AI who are seeing the same things, like Dr. Ifeoma Ajunwa. She's a researcher who focuses on AI ethics. And she points out this growing trend of using AI to kind of monitor employees and make judgments about their performance.
It's like AI is becoming Big Brother in the workplace, watching your every move and scoring you based on these data points that don't always tell the whole story.
Exactly. And then you've got Raman Chowdhury. She's the director of AI ethics at Twitter. And she warns about the dangers of what she calls moral outsourcing.
So instead of like really dealing with the ethics of these decisions, we're just passing the buck to the algorithms.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
The AI decided this, not us.
Yeah.
As if that makes it okay.
But somebody programmed that AI, right? Somebody decided to use it in this way, so there's still human accountability woven into all of this.
Absolutely. Professor Eng also quotes Gemma Galdon-Clavell, who founded the Ethicus Foundation. And she argues that you can't just say, oh, I'm just a tech person, when these algorithms are creating unfair outcomes.
Right. We all have a responsibility to make sure that AI is being used responsibly and ethically. We can't just let the algorithms decide our fate.
And that's where things get really interesting. Professor Eng's company, Human Minority, is actually using AI in a totally different way to help even the playing field for job seekers who've been caught in this trap.
Oh, wow. So they're using AI to fight the bias that AI is creating? That sounds like a game changer. Tell me more about what they're doing.
Well, one of their main things is this AI-powered resume optimization service. They're basically helping people tailor their resumes specifically for those AI screening tools we talked about earlier.
So instead of letting those algorithms automatically disqualify you based on, keywords or past experiences, you're using AI to make your resume more appealing to the AI.
It's all about understanding how the system works and using that to your advantage.
That's brilliant. I bet a lot of people could benefit from that. What else is human already doing to kind of help job seekers navigate this whole thing?
One other big service they offer is bias detection and reputation repair. Their platform can actually scan job applications for algorithmic bias, and it offers insights to help you kind of mitigate those biases.
So if you've been unfairly labeled as a low performer or have other red flags on your application, they can help you identify and address those issues before they ruin your chances.
That's like getting a second chance, a way to overcome those digital scarlet letters that can hold you back.
That's incredible. And to top it all off, they also provide like skill pathways and career rebuilding guidance to help workers figure out what skills are in demand and maybe transition to new roles that might be a better fit.
Exactly. They get that the job market is always changing, and AI is just speeding that up. So they're not just helping people find any job, they're helping them build careers that can last in a world where automation is becoming more and more common.
It's a much more holistic way of looking at career development,
Yeah.
you know? It's about giving people the power to take control of their professional futures in this age of AI.
You know what I think is really fascinating is that Humanity is using AI to deal with some of these negative consequences we've been talking about. But they're also showing us that AI can be a force for good in the workplace too.
It all comes down to how we choose to use it right. It's not about saying AI is bad. It's about using it in a thoughtful and intentional way to create a better future for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. It's about understanding the potential downsides, but also seeing the opportunities that AI can offer.
So for our listeners out there, what does all this mean for you? What are some practical things you can do to navigate this job market that's changing so fast and protect yourself from these potential biases?
That's a really great question, and one that deserves a deeper dive. Let's explore that in the next part of our conversation, where we can unpack some specific strategies and resources that can help you build a more resilient career that can really stand the test of time.
So we've been talking about how companies are using this like low performer label and how AI can sometimes make that bias even worse. It can feel a little bit like a catch-22, especially for people who are already feeling stressed about trying to find a new job.
It's definitely a tough spot to be in.
Yeah,
It's like trying to climb a ladder, but someone keeps moving the rungs.
exactly. And it's not even just about finding a new job. It's about rebuilding your career and feeling confident in your skills again. What would Professor Nang suggest people do to kind of reclaim their narrative and, take control of the situation?
Well, I think one of the most important things, and this is something that Humanity talks about a lot too, is to focus on skills development.
Yeah.
The job market is always changing, and AI is only making that happen faster. So you can't just rely on your past experience anymore. You really need to be constantly learning and adapting.
So it's like you're future-proofing yourself by staying ahead of the curve.
That's a great way to put it, and there are so many resources out there now to help people do that. Online courses, boot camps, professional development programs. There's something for everyone.
And it's not just about those tech skills either, right? What about those so-called soft skills like communication and problem solving? Those seem more important than ever.
You're absolutely right. Those human skills are what really set us apart from machines, and they're becoming even more valuable as AI becomes more common.
Yeah.
Think about it. AI can do a lot of those routine tasks, but it can't replicate things like creativity, empathy, or critical thinking.
So by working on those skills, you're basically making yourself more valuable to employers.
Exactly. You're showing them that you bring something unique to the table that a machine just can't do.
What about networking? Is that still important in this whole digital world?
Oh, it's more important than ever. Building relationships and making connections is so crucial, especially when you're trying to overcome these challenges we've been talking about.
So like attending industry events, being active on LinkedIn, reaching out to people, all that stuff is still relevant.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to actually talk about your layoff experience in a positive way. Frame it as an opportunity for growth and learning.
Instead of seeing it as a setback, you're turning it into a story of resilience and adaptability.
Exactly. And you never know, you might connect with someone who's been through something similar and can offer some great advice or support.
It's like building a community of people who get it and can help you navigate the ups and downs.
And let's not forget about your online presence.
Yeah.
That's basically your digital storefront now, especially with AI playing such a big role in hiring.
So making sure your LinkedIn profile is updated, showcasing your skills and experience, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And think about creating a personal website or portfolio to really highlight your work and make it easy for potential employers to find you.
It's all about creating this digital footprint that shows your true value and what you can bring to the table.
And don't underestimate the power of storytelling. You
Yeah.
know, craft a compelling narrative that showcases your unique skills and experiences.
So instead of just listing your accomplishments, you're weaving them into a story that people can connect with.
Right. It's about making yourself memorable and showing potential employers why they should invest in you.
This is all great advice. It
Mhm.
feels really empowering to know that there are things you can actually do to overcome these challenges and shape your own future.
And remember, it's not just about adapting to the job market as it is right now. It's about developing the skills and the mindset that will help you thrive in the future of work. You know a future where AI is going to be even more prevalent.
It's interesting that we're talking about empowerment because earlier we were discussing how some people feel like AI is taking away their power,
Yeah.
making decisions for them.
That's a valid concern, and I think it's important to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in different ways. It can be used to control and manipulate, or it can be used to empower and liberate. It really comes down to the intentions of the humans who are creating and using it.
So we have a responsibility to make sure that AI is being used for good, to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed no matter their background or their past experiences.
I completely agree, and that's why these conversations are so important. We need to raise awareness about the potential downsides of AI, but also explore the ways it can be used for positive change.
And speaking of positive change, we haven't even finished talking about the amazing work that Professor Eng's company, Humanity, is doing. It's one thing to talk about ethical AI in theory, but they're actually putting those principles into practice.
I'm excited to dig into that. They're a fantastic example of how AI can be used to create a more equitable and empowering future of work.
Let's save that conversation for the last part of our deep dive. I think there are some really valuable lessons to be learned from how they're using AI to level the playing field for workers and create a more just and equitable future. So we spent a good amount of time talking about the, potential downsides of AI, especially when it comes to things like hiring and the impact it can have on people's careers. But let's maybe shift gears a little bit and focus on some of the positive things that are happening. Professor Eng's company, Humanity, is doing some really cool stuff to try and counter these issues and use AI as a force for good in the job market.
It's really great to see a company that's not just acknowledging the problems, but actually trying to solve them, you know?
We touched on this a bit earlier, but I'd love to hear more about how they're using AI to actually help people overcome some of these biases that we've been talking about.
Well, one of the things that really impressed me was their AI-powered resume optimization service. It's almost like they're giving job seekers a secret weapon to deal with those AI screening tools that can be so mysterious sometimes.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of people are just at the mercy of these algorithms without even knowing it. It's great that Humanity is helping people understand how those systems work and giving them the power to tailor their resumes in a way that makes sense.
They're not just throwing people in the deep end and saying, good luck.
Yeah.
They're providing the tools and the knowledge to help people succeed. And it's not just about getting past that initial screening either. Humanity goes even further by helping people identify and address any potential red flags that might be hiding in their applications.
That's so important, especially with that whole low performer label we talked about. If an algorithm sees that kind of language, it can really hurt someone's chances, even if it's completely unfair.
It's like having a digital advocate in your corner,
Mm.
you know, someone who can spot those potential biases and help you present your qualifications in a way that's both accurate and appealing to those algorithms. But they don't stop there either. Humanity also understands that the job market is constantly changing.
Yeah, especially with AI transforming everything so quickly, people need more than just a quick fix. They need guidance to build a career that can actually last.
And that's where their skill pathways and career rebuilding guidance come in. They're helping people figure out what skills are in high demand and explore new career paths that really match their talents and interests.
It's like they're saying, okay, this industry might be shrinking, but here are some other areas where your skills could really take off.
They're not just offering a temporary solution, they're giving people the resources to take control of their own futures.
It's amazing how Humanity is combining their technical expertise with a genuine understanding of, the human side of all of this. It's not just about algorithms, it's about people's lives and their livelihoods.
It's about empowering people to adapt and succeed in a world where technology is becoming more and more important.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. We've explored some pretty complex and sometimes even a little scary aspects of AI, but I think it's important to end on a hopeful note.
I agree. It's easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff, but there are definitely people and companies out there who are using AI to make a real positive impact.
Professor Eng and Humanity are a perfect example of that. They're not just talking about ethical AI, they're putting it into action, building tools and services that give workers more power and create a more fair job market for everyone.
It's a good reminder that we have a choice in how we shape the future of AI. It doesn't have to be this force that divides us and creates inequality. It can be a force that brings us together and creates opportunities.
And that's a message that I think we all need to hear. So, to everyone listening, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all this talk about AI and what it means for the job market, just remember that you're not alone. There are resources out there to help you navigate these changes and build a career that can thrive in the future. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little inspiring. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and let's keep working together to shape a future where AI works for everyone.